Hey guys, welcome to the Mad Over Videos podcast by Guch. This is episode 24, and today's guest is Amanda. Amanda is from Dashlane, and she's been uh, a social media person, a digital marketer for almost about 10 years now. She's worked with amazing brands. Before being at Dashlane, she's been at WWE, something that everybody or all 90s kids have grown up watching. So again, we're going to have amazing conversations around that. And then she's also been with AMC again. Uh, it's a television network. She's done some good stuff back there. Uh, and then again, not just these being at these brands, but then what she really like sort of has that differentiates her is her expertise with the latest trends again in on platforms like Snapchat and TikTok. So again, we're going to be talking about those. So without much ado, I'd like to add Amanda to the stream, and please welcome Amanda.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing great. Thanksgiving's coming up, so it's been an interesting year to be thankful for.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But before I actually go ahead with the conversation, I'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit more elaborately because I don't think so. I've done a great job doing your introduction. So please tell us more about you, your role at Dashlane, and previously your background from where you come.
Absolutely. And I want you to know you're doing a great job. So I've been in social media for 10 years, which is crazy because when I studied communications as an undergraduate, we had Facebook for school, we had Twitter that just started, Instagram was in its infant stages, but social media marketing wasn't a thing. So I've skipped around various industries, retail, entertainment, hospitality, technology, and I've worked on different sectors within those marketing worlds, whether it's the strategy part, content creation, community management, and cadence, as well as analytics. So I understand all various aspects of social, but everyone's kind of it's a whole new world. It's so new, it's so fresh. We're all just kind of learning as we go. So it's an interesting world to be a part of for sure.
Awesome. So I want to ask you this question that I ask all the guests on the podcast. Why is Amanda mad over videos?
I'm mad over video content because we've really taken the evolution of video and media, coming from radio, coming from broadcasting, and taken it in and really beautifully evolved it into this new rich format that has subtitles for people who can't always hear the words or hard of hearing, to really beautifully defined graphics and visuals you thought only belonged in movies maybe, but now they belong everywhere. It's just been really fun to see, and I love consuming video content, whether it's listening to the whole experience or watching it like others with muted. I love the way video has evolved over time.
Awesome. That's very beautifully put because I haven't heard a lot of people define the beauty of the medium so elaborately, so articulately. So thank you so much for doing that, Amanda. Now, coming to this point, I've been checking out your LinkedIn profile and I've seen these two keywords as your role titles, having worked at AMC and WWE. I want to know the difference between them. The first one is a social media strategist, and the second one is social media manager. Would you, for the lesser known people out there, would you be able to elaborate the difference between these two?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start backwards, going backwards into what a social media manager role is. Obviously, that depends on the company, depends on the team. So typically, a social media manager will be doing a handful of different roles. Again, I can only speak to what I've done, but it usually involves making up a strategy calendar of where the content's going to be, sometimes writing the content and ideating on the content, writing the copy for the content, posting it, and then analyzing it at the end. So it's kind of a role that's specifically with many hats. You're covering a lot of different bases there. Versus when I was a social strategist at WWE, I got to be in a very niche opportunity. WWE has kind of become a forefront in social because they invested so much into social. They have specific teams for all these different areas, not just one social media manager doing everything. So that kind of allowed me as a social strategist to really think about what was the main brand going to do versus what is Total Diva is going to do versus how to push our CPG content versus working closely with the executive team on how to best promote their brand widely. So it can be everything, but the social media strategist really allowed me to be very refined in that role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, I want to know, like, see, I mean, this is a new position. This is a new career path. I mean, relatively at least, when you look at most other marketing fields or verticals, they're still quite mature when it comes to like the understandings and skill sets that you need to be in those, right? When it comes to social media, again, the whole social media world is not that mature. Like it's been just over what 14, 15, 16 years, and it's like I want to understand what kind of skills go into becoming a good social media guy, because again, if you look at B school courses that train you in marketing, you would elaborately learn subjects and skills that you would pick up for other marketing roles. But when it comes to social media, what makes a very good social media person?
Again, I think that's definitely very subjective, but I think I know the levels that the skill set that I attribute to my success being I've been very passionate about pop culture for most of my life. So the transition from different medias, going from being obsessed with magazines to transitioning into this new digital medium, kind of was helpful for me. I think I really enjoyed the phrase or I don't know what the tagline that idiom. There we are. Uh, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. Obviously, that's not realistic, but I very much enjoy being on these social platforms, understanding kind of the way people speak and interact with each other. I'm a very social person, and I don't think that is required for social media managers, but I love watching people interact and kind of understanding people's behaviors. And no better place for that than this world of social media. I also think what has helped me is I have a slight passion for stats and data. I think anything you do on social kind of needs the data to back it up. Otherwise, you're just posting for the sake of posting, which is fun, but it's not realistic for a business plan and a strategy. So having that data to back it up, being able to read those metrics and
Yeah.
and tell a full story out of that is vital. Lastly, just based on the different areas I've worked in, it obviously helps to understand the community itself. You know,
Yes.
I had a big learning curve coming into WWE, really only knowing Dwayne the Rock Johnson and learning about the different wrestlers, the different wrestling moves, the history. Coming into AMC, I was already a big fan of The Walking Dead and Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. So I kind of was able to leverage that. And here at Dashlane, I'm learning this whole different tech community that exists on Twitter and talking to them and interacting whenever there's the big tech congressional hearings or other big news that comes out whenever Facebook launches anything or the new fleets on Twitter. I know that community is always going to be talking about it.
Absolutely. I think the way you've described your career path, it sounds really fun. Like most of the part of your job is is something that you would enjoy doing, and getting paid for that, right? So this is something. How do you? I'm really curious because I remember while growing up, and when uh, we had the first social network that I was exposed to was called Orkut. Something that a guy called Orkut built, who was an ex Google employee, and after that Facebook came, and then today we are on all sorts of other social networks, and it was always looked at by our parents especially as things that would distract you away from your studies. Today, when you're getting paid to do something like that, I'd like to know how you explain your job to your parents.
Well, it helps that I have very savvy, smart parents. My mom is very, very active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I taught my dad Reddit, so they're very open to technology in a way that I think a lot of parents aren't. So that's been really helpful. I think I struggle more explaining this job to my grandmother, but she's doing her best to understand as well. But what's interesting is, to your point, these earlier social media platforms, getting your parents' permission to go on it. I remember when I was on MySpace back in the day, but they were kind of an evolution of what forums used to be. And those little communities, they've always existed, the class of fields, they used to call them in the newspapers. These little pockets of communities have always existed, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, they really just capitalized on how to expand that and make it more widely intersectional and acceptable for people.
Absolutely. We'll start talking from like your role at WWE. I'd like to know, first of all, we all grew up watching WWE. Everybody, I think if you're a 90s kid and if you've not watched it, again, it's you're going to be living under a rock, right? I want to know, first of all, how did you land that gig? And the second thing, what was your expectation when you came into the job, and what did you come out as?
Well, what's interesting is I've gotten a few of my jobs through LinkedIn, actually. So using LinkedIn as this living, breathing resume, it does work. There's a lot of tricks out there. Some of them are legitimate, some of them are not. But definitely keeping your resume updated on your LinkedIn page has been essential. So it's interesting because WWE was it was a risky opportunity to take. I'm living in Brooklyn, commuting to Connecticut, where the headquarters are. That's a 2.5-hour trip one way. Was a risk, but the reward paid off. I was excited to be part of this massive team with some of the smartest people I've ever met. It's still to this day one of the most cohesive, aligned teams I've ever worked with. There was a love and respect for each other that I think is essential to making such a good platform work, hands down. But yes, there was a lot of learning. There was a big learning curve of learning the history, understanding the nuances, really coming in. WWE has a massive presence on every single platform, but especially Facebook at that time, because I started in 2014. So it was before Facebook kind of really evolved to where it is now. It was before Cambridge Analytica. It was when people were still kind of using Facebook. So it was a different world. WWE has hundreds of accounts just on Facebook alone, and all of them were owned internally in the company. So it was a lot of content to create, but also a lot of opportunity to kind of go back to the blog or posting specific videos from the recent Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view, etc., and like just really building each wrestler's brand.
Absolutely. Tell me, who's your favorite wrestler, and if you met a bunch of them, who did you have the best experience?
So before I started, I always claimed that The Rock was my favorite. And I started after the Shield disbanded, and I left before they came back. So unfortunately, I don't have any full ties to that. But I'd say my favorite faction to this day is one I got to be there when they were created, and that's oh God, now their name is eluding me. It's with the Bootios. Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
So you can skip right that. That's okay.
Of course, I know their Bootios. I know. God. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. The people I met were very nice. You know, Vince would be in the hall sometimes. I saw Stephanie. I saw Triple H. Very nice, very considerate in the office. So that was always kind of a crazy thing to experience.
Awesome. So tell me, what kind of video content did WWE? I mean, like you said, WWE was established, or was it always at a position where they did not have lack of eyeballs, right? People were glued to their TV sets, especially people in the lower age categories, and it wasn't like they were struggling with the problem of acquiring new viewers, right? If you're the first uh, person to watch it, then you would go and talk to your friends about it, even if they had not heard of it. You would tell them, hey, you gotta watch this, and the viewership was never a problem. How did WWE ensure that they consistently put out great content? One, I'm not talking about the matches and programming of the actual wrestling content, but because that's something which a lot of other teams would be taking care of. But when it came to social, how did they enjoy? Because there were people who wanted to see what happened beyond the match, right? So I'm assuming a lot of content was created from behind the scenes, and like interviews after the matches, etc., and a lot of fun stuff. Just give us a idea about how what was the sphere of content that you all created, and especially in video.
Oh God, I don't even know if we have enough time to talk about that. I could talk all day about the massive video library, past, present, future, that WWE had at the time and still does to this day. But obviously, what's crazy about WWE, unlike any other show, sport, anything out there, is there's no off season. They are ongoing in Raw, in SmackDown, in pay-per-views, and don't forget the other smaller series they launched while I was there: 205 Live, NXT, of course, which was launched before me. So at any given time, there's at least 5 to 7 shows going all at once. So they're never hurting for new content from those series. They invested very heavily into a very, very talented and successful video team, which developed a really good process of creating that content, getting it edited and ready to go for social. Social was put as one of the primaries in terms of receiving that content and getting the best content out there. Obviously, we don't want to spoil pieces that you might want to get on the WWE network, but you would always get really strong content regardless. And they have such a big global presence that we get to hit so many different levels, so many different communities all at once. What was also great while I was there was they started launching YouTube channels. So during my time there, we launched Up, Up, Down, Down, their gaming channel with Xavier Woods, as well as the Bella's YouTube presence dedicated to Nikki and Brie. So separately, having those groups create video content just for YouTube was really exciting to also see.
Right. Like you said, they produce tons of content pieces, especially in video. One of your insights that you mentioned earlier while working at WWE is quality always trumps quantity, right? How did you ensure that all the content that was put out was at that massive scale, but each of them was engaging and really something that would be meaningful for someone who's watching?
Right. At WWE, you have so much content available. So it is about kind of narrowing in on what's important, what's valuable to the fans and the community versus what's additional content just in case. Because look at the world we're in now. You need that just in case video right now. So it definitely was a little bit harder to scale back on what was a priority there. I think it's a little bit easier when you have smaller content opportunities, but there it was about what is engaging. And, obviously in all of these situations, it's kind of a mix of what that team who's working on it just deems engaging and exciting, but you kind of have to trust in that team to know what they're talking about and know that they are delivering the best, most engaging, most rewarding content out there to the fans.
Right. Other than that, I think you also mentioned about authenticity. Again, that's something which is very important when you are building an engagement with fans or with the community, right? How did you ensure that like y'all put the authentic uh, like impressions of the WWE stars for the audiences outside the television sets?
Right. And what's interesting with the WWE fans is their persona in the ring sometimes varies from that YouTube presence that they're giving. But it's about making sure they're comfortable and they're true to who they are. And then they can either be that ring character and that YouTube presence, or a mix of both, kind of a few interweave them into one another. But it's about staying true to yourself. And that's applicable not just in the video content space, but in everything in social. There's no right or wrong way to do social. No one, if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. And so it's all about being true to yourself, because what I deem successful makes sense to me, but you might have a different opinion, and that still is successful. So it's about being true to yourself, being authentic. If you're not going to ever post an Instagram story, why would you post one tomorrow? Thinking about things like that.
True. I think, like you said, if we continue talking about this topic, we're going to fall short of time. We're already got 22 minutes into the podcast. I want to take the next step, talking about your next role at AMC. What was that like? What were your roles and responsibilities? And we'd like to also play a video or two from that role. Again, we'll talk through the campaigns. But what was the whole experience like working with a television network? Right, you're working with one organization which was a part of a television network, and today you're working with multiple shows which are different from each other, and again with massive fan following. What was that like?
Yeah, no, it was truly a dream come true to work at AMC. I was a huge Mad Men fan, a huge Breaking Bad fan. So to get this role, and obviously when I started in 2017, Walking Dead was top of its line. Better Call Saul was in its third season. We had Fear in its third season. So there were a mix of shows. It wasn't, my favorite shows weren't necessarily on anymore, but it was still a really exciting opportunity to be in this world. There was a little bit less of a learning curve for me because I had watched The Walking Dead. I was a lapsed viewer, which means that I had given up. So I had to restart it from the very beginning. But that meant that content was fresh because, prior to my time at AMC, I watched TV shows once and that was it. And at AMC, I really had to learn to watch multiple times, because even when I watched it once, fans would pick up on stuff so easily. So I had to pick up on those small details, be able to pick out these little nuanced moments and details that I knew fans would pay attention to. It brought its own challenges. As I said, I was just strategy at WWE. Here I was doing everything, all types of things. And I was able to use a lot of what I learned at WWE to help influence my role at AMC. Everything from making sure we were, tracking our progress. How are we doing in the space? To, what can we do to kind of I cannot speak.
That's it.
Put in some voice and personality. At that time, Wendy's was a big, kind of the Twitter handle that everybody kept on referring to. So it was about how to kind of, to use a wrestling term, how to kayfabe the space. So, Walking Dead has a very specific feel. So it's going to be kind of a little darker. They'll have fun, but it's never going to be an uplifting, positive, social media experience necessarily. But you're not coming for that. Versus on Better Call Saul, I wanted to make it feel very in-world, get all the jokes, but also, is it written by Jimmy? Is it written by Saul? Is it written by Francesca? Who could theoretically write the content type of feeling?
Correct. So I want to play a video from The Walking Dead that I think y'all put out, and then you can tell me what went behind making that content piece, and any other stories that you'd like to share about that. So I would play that video, and then we can talk about it. So here goes.
Notice the mother. In this habitat, her life is far from easy. Every day is a risk. Fighting for survival is key in this world, and training begins at an early age. The Walking Dead returns February 23rd on AMC.
Good girl.
And before their world returns, don't miss the epic television event, 7 Worlds, 1 Planet, this Saturday on AMC.
So I'm very proud of that video piece because unlike other video pieces in the past on The Walking Dead during my time, I pitched that entire idea. So, and I wrote the script and they kept the script. So amazing. So what happened with that was AMC is part of a sister network with the BBC America, and Sir David Attenborough had a new show coming. And obviously when you're in a group of the sister networks, you're always trying to help each other. And that's where using your voice and authenticity is really key on making sure how to promote a show that's completely out of the world. 7 Worlds, 1 Planet has nothing to do with The Walking Dead on paper, but how do you bring that to life? How do you bring them together? So I wanted Sir David Attenborough to narrate The Walking Dead's world. And I pitched this idea, I wrote the script, and kind of leveraging at that point, Michonne was the main person on the kind of the protagonist. So taking her world, how would Sir David look at it from his lens? And it turned out really beautifully, and I think really brought attention to 7 Worlds, 1 Planet, but also still getting the world of The Walking Dead excited for the next season ahead.
No, I can totally feel your excitement when you actually would have conceptualized the piece. Having said that, what went through your mind rather when you were ideating this, when you were writing the script, and when it eventually came out, and you were able to put Sir David's voice on that clip again? What was running through your mind back?
I do want to just make a note that it's not actually Sir David. Something interesting to learn is, obviously Sir David is very popular and very much in demand, but because we are part of the same network that owns BBC America, we were able to use a voice doppelganger, if you will. So it's not actually Sir David. But the concept, from the idea to the execution, it took less than a month. It was something that I was thinking about over winter break, or over the holidays, Christmas and New Year's. I was thinking about, okay, what if Sir David narrated The Walking Dead? And I pitched it. I wrote out a script of, okay, this is what it could look like. And it really did not take much time because the idea was really widely praised and enjoyed. And so the final execution ended up being such a delight, and to be able to post it and see the progress was, it just warmed my heart.
Absolutely. It's such a amazing crossover, right? Because one would not think of those two, the voice and the visuals in the same place. So when you sort of give that shock to the audience, I think that creates something beautiful, and people, I'm sure, would have reacted wonderfully to this post. Do you have any uh, anecdotes or comments that you remember, that or people who shared about this video, if they had posted something unique that really caught your attention?
I don't, because the Walking Dead community can be similar to the WWE community. It can be a little stuck in certain areas, but it was well received. It's always interesting to measure sentiment because it is a very historically more of a manual process. Trusting a computer can help you 50% of the time at best. So I know it was well received. I know it got over 200,000 views, but that's an average day in the life of The Walking Dead. So it did well, and it was also featured as a spot on TV as well. So that was really exciting.
It's wonderful. It started from digital screens and going on TV. I think that's something that you would take back very. I think you would love that outcome, right?
Absolutely. Two birds, one Stoneall. Amazing.
That's a t-shirt quote now. I'm going to be waiting for you to put that on a t-shirt, and I'm going to buy the t-shirt as well. So I think coming to the point where you mentioned earlier, while we were discussing about what we wanted to talk on the podcast, you also mentioned using the same video again, repurposing your content, because it's always not possible for you to keep coming up with great quality content day in and day out, right? So when you know that a certain video piece works, how do you repurpose that, and should you, rather? I mean, I want you to answer that, but I know the answer is obvious, but then I want you to answer that. Why would you repurpose the same video again?
Yeah, this started as a test at AMC, and I believe we actually did this a few times at WWE as well, but it really became a test to see, okay, we know we're going to make this many trailers, but we have more than that many weeks. So if we're making 3 trailers, but it's 6 weeks before the show premieres, how do you kind of ensure you're not losing steam and making sure you're still using this really beautiful, well-edited content that, so many people were involved in making? So how do you not let it die just because of one post or one posting time? And that's where the repetition comes into play. I definitely think it depends on the content. It depends on the audience. It depends even on the platform. I've done these tests now, not just at AMC, but also at Dashlane. And certain platforms, it makes more sense to repeat content than others. But it's kind of the content best when it's you who's the decision maker here. So you understand whether it makes sense to post it again or hold it. But the whole idea came from the fact that we're living in this very fast-paced world, and there's so much content out there. So much people don't have the time to watch and read and listen to everything. So if you hit them one time and they don't see it, there's no reason you can't post it a second time. You're getting new eyes. You're getting people who maybe saw it but didn't pay attention. You're getting people who watched it on mute, and now they're curious to watch it with the sound. And each time it has been interesting to see, because it's been a successful experiment. I definitely think it helps to vary the video asset a little bit. So if you can start with a different, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all measure by 3 seconds is a view. So if the same 3 seconds exist, you're going to start to fatigue people very quickly. So change up the first 3 seconds, use a different thumbnail, always vary the copy, get people's attention in a new way, but using the same beautiful video asset you have available to you.
I think beautiful silver bullets that you just mentioned, but like you said, the same points may not be applicable for everyone. It's for everybody to first create, evaluate, and then iterate. You know your content best, and the best person to take that decision is going to be you.
Exactly. And, when I was at AMC, we discovered that 2 weeks was a good time frame in which we could then repeat the content. But at Dashlane, I have a little bit more limited amount of content available. So it's okay if I repeat a video post a month or two after, because we don't have that much video content to begin with. So I'm just hitting a whole new batch of eyes, new viewers, new followers, new engagement.
Absolutely. Now that you mentioned Dashlane, I would like to use this as a segue to our conversation about the brand. The first thing that this is something that caught my attention was when I went to dashlane.com and there was this video on the homepage. Again, it I went to the YouTube channel. Again, this was one of the featured videos on the channel, and something that was very unique about it was the title, right? There was the word random in that title, and it just caught my attention. Like, and there are sometimes these words or these lines of thoughts that you can build upon, which are definitely going to catch people's attention. So I'd like to play the video first, and then you can tell me a little bit more about the video. So here goes the video.
No one wants to be predictable. A predictable rabbit is dinner. Instead, rabbit is random, unguessable. What just happened? Rabbit out-randomed you, Foxy. That's what happened. Random rabbit is free! Dashlane. Positively random, totally unguessable passwords for people who use the internet.
Yeah, so I love the title, Random on Purpose. The second thing I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention while positioning the company towards the end of the video, they said random passwords for everybody who uses the internet. Anyone who uses the internet can use Dashlane. So you're making it so approachable, so accessible to anyone who's watching it. So it's like you feel that, okay, this is something for me. So how do you get this video right? What went behind? I know you might be not the person who came up with this, but then how do you see this as an asset for your brand?
Right. So this came from the fact that passwords, everyone has passwords. Everyone has an average of 100 passwords even. So it's vital that you are being safe with your passwords, with your cybersecurity. And that's where staying random, keep hackers guessing kind of came into play. And, it's funny, we wanted to get another Sir David Attenborough voice doppelganger for this, but because we weren't at AMC, we had to use a different style. But it's still beautiful. And the whole concept that, a rabbit kind of stays alive by using random maneuvers, by keeping their predators guessing. And that's the same with passwords. You've got to stay random, not have something that's really easy to hack, easy to infiltrate, because, so many, even the recent worst password offenders of 2020, password is still in there. Password 1 is still in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is still in there. It's like people want to be hacked, but staying random is the best way to keep people guessing or put them off their trail.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like you just brought out the whole idea, and people, they know what is the importance of a password for them, but they don't want to take that additional effort to remember so many passwords, right? And that's what Dashlane solves, right? You don't have to remember everything, but you still have the same ability as everybody else to have the most random password that no one could guess. I think the easiest way to hack, I think one of the basic methods that people use is guessing. I think, like you said, the words like password or the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a little step ahead of that would be if I know you as a person and I know your pet's name or your date of birth. These are things that people use as passwords and very easy to guess. So it's very important problem that Dashlane solves for everybody, and it's very important that Dashlane communicates the problem and the intensity of it, and then positions the solution.
Exactly. And there are so many different video trends that were out there about, using the street you grew up on and your pet's name to what you said. And anytime people put that information out there, that gives hackers another excuse to track you and then hack you. And that's what's so great about the random password generator. You can fit all the metrics in there. How many characters do you need? Do you need symbols? Do you need a mix of numbers? Do you need capitals and lowercase? We got you. We can always create a random password that fits those. That's completely unguessable.
Correct. So the next thing I want to talk about is using trends or occasions. Brands use this always. I think you being a social media manager prior as well, you know how to build a brand calendar, right? Every occasion that would repeat every year, you would have something planned in prior, right? When it came to Dashlane, it was about this week of national cybersecurity awareness, or rather the entire month. And one of the posts that you made on LinkedIn, I'd like to throw the post on the screen right now, and then maybe you can tell me a little bit about it, is this one. And I also would like to say that I have the couple of screen grabs from this video that I'd like to show as in when you continue to talk me through it.
Absolutely. So what's nice about working at a tech company like Dashlane is we're still fairly new for a lot of people, but we're in a space that everyone kind of touches on at some point and no one really understands. So it's really a great opportunity for Dashlane to be an educator in different tech vocabulary, tech ideas, just things to educate yourself better. Everyone should kind of have a basic sense of what encryption is. And it's nice to use very simple but beautifully created video content to educate people on these various vocabulary terms, everything that it comes in the tech space, really.
Right. So, like, I mean, I don't know a lot about encryption, but what you're trying to do through this video is, like, you're just trying to explain to me as a layman what is encryption basically, how advanced is it? Because when you say that, okay, it's also being used by banks, governments, organizations, again, you're sort of putting an idea in my mind that this is going to be safe, right?
Exactly. And also, one of the biggest questions we get on Dashlane Social is, why should I trust this third-party tool? And leveraging National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, leveraging these different opportunities to educate people on various topics in the tech space allows us to come back to the place where this is why Dashlane is reputable, is trustworthy, is on your side, is not on big tech side, is on your side as the people, as the users, as the businesses that are using it. We want everyone to be safe. That's all we want.
Yeah. I can totally feel the struggle when it comes to like communicating the aspect of security, because there are plenty of password managers out there, right? The second thing is, you keep reading about hacks on databases of companies, and we've heard a bunch of them even in the e-commerce domains, where you also associate your say payment details, like your bank details and things like that, were very sensitive, and you could get I think bankrupt, if you could go bankrupt when somebody could get hold of your password there. So how do you sort of, like, this is going to be a struggle for brands in this space. Then how do you sort of solve for building trust inside consumers, and especially on social? Because again, social is typically people come on social media to get entertained, and like when you're talking about gaining their trust, what are the things that you follow? What are the tips and tricks that you sort of follow when it comes to building that trust in your consumer?
Yeah, I think what social really helps for, especially in a smaller brand like Dashlane, is to listen to your customer. You have essentially a focus group right at your fingertips. So if there are concerns, issues, it's important to acknowledge that you're listening. And so something like Dashlane, unlike my time at AMC or at WWE, I have a support team as well that has their own social. So I'm working very closely with them to make sure that they're on top of it. I'm not adding more work to their plate or duplicating the work, but making sure that the person who's having an issue, their needs are getting met. And that's, I think, such a great way to build trust. I also very much pay attention to conversations about people who are like, I just had to reset my password for the 15th time. I like to come in and say, hey, so I hear you need Dashlane. It's a great way to kind of show people I'm paying attention. I know this issue. You don't have to have this issue anymore. Follow me.
Absolutely. It's not just important to listen to your customers in order to pitch in your product, but often times it also helps you build your own copy, right? When you can speak the language of the consumers, you can take. I've seen examples where you could just lift off phrases from customer reviews or possibly bad reviews on your competitor's product and then turn it into your brand's copy.
Oh, absolutely. Although I definitely think it's not only is it good to listen to people, but also people want credit. So I almost like to turn into the different tweets, reviews, whatnot, and acknowledge people on Instagram. Show that this is your copy. I'm not trying to claim it to be my own. I still want to give you the credit. You still deserve the spotlight, knowing that you made this incredible point or sentence, whatever it is, and just not only listen, but acknowledge them.
Absolutely. I think that's the best thing you could do to your consumer. I think if you can make them feel good and empowered, I think when you can make them feel important, that's when they will stick around, right? They will value you as a brand. So that's something. Kudos to you guys for I think openly admitting that this is something that comes from your consumers and putting them in the limelight. So I think you're building champions for your brand that way.
No, definitely. Absolutely.
The next thing I really wanted to talk about is I think Super Bowl. I think Super Bowl for most advertisers is the biggest extravaganza, right? When it comes to like that one spot that you can advertise, it possibly attracts the maximum eyeballs around the year, right? And when it comes to putting your best self as the brand out there, most people like try to ensure that they invest heavily in getting the right video when it comes to the Super Bowl ad, right? And I'd like to congratulate you guys also on the kind of video that you all produced for the 2020 season, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's the 2020 season ad that you shared with me. So I'm going to play that, and then you can talk me through the process of how this helped the brand get more attention after Super Bowl. So here goes.
Please. Please, can we go back? I have money. I can pay you. Wait. Is that where we're going? I mean, that place looks amazing. Yeah. Whew. I must think I'm such a baby. I don't know. Oh, scrambles. Oh, no. The fish. Okay, Miss Bigley. Miss B. Why do you... Dolphin trainer! I didn't want to be a dolphin trainer! Stop doing that! You go back! No, I'm right!
so relatable when it came to the slates, that whatever he was writing on the slates, and the 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 music, the sort of the jingle that comes in towards the end. It, I mean, this is something that it's going to be stuck in my mind for a while. Again, it gives me also, even though I know that, okay, I've watched a video that was so good, sometimes I don't remember the name of the brand, but here I think it was so smart of the person who was responsible for making the jingle to also use the name of the brand and convert that into the jingle. So brilliant work there. Please tell me how that come off.
Definitely. So that does predate my time, but I can still speak on it. It was such a big opportunity for the brand to, anytime a brand has a Super Bowl commercial, it's such a big win, such a big opportunity. And I think the team did it justice. I think it's important to note that earlier this year, Dashlane had a complete rebrand, and this commercial kind of went in line with the new vision they were going for. When you think of password manager, you kind of think of something dull or boring or annoying that you have to use. And we want to be the fun password manager. We want to be the one that, yeah, you're thinking about that tune, Dashlane, and we're having fun with you, but we're making your life better. And I definitely think that commercial took it into the right direction. It's fun, it's playful, it's memorable. And that's what's important. And, again, this is another great opportunity where I've posted it a few more times, because just because you saw it once on the screen in February doesn't mean everyone took it in. So it's good to reuse that content. And it made it was the lemons for the lemonade content I needed for other various social media content, whether it's memes or just images or whatever. It definitely, it helps Dashlane a lot.
Absolutely. Again, you would also have used a bunch of, like, I think the overall commercial would have been longer in duration. And when it comes to TV spots, you would have a different down edit. When it came to like stories or posts on social media, you would have different cuts of the same commercial, right?
Right. Oh, of course. I think the original commercial is 1 minute 30, and then we use the 30 a lot. We use the 60 a lot. Sometimes the 15.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've spoken enough about the brands that you've represented. Now comes the time to talk about brands that you've learned or you admire, right? The first one you would like to mention about or speak to me about is Netflix, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I have a few beyond ones I listed. Definitely Netflix. Netflix completely redefined voice I would say about 5 years ago, using the first person, being very Gen Z before Gen Z really had a set voice that we understood. And the way they have translated that voice into the different verticals, they have their Spanish one, they have their Black one, they have their LGBT friendly one. They've really maximized how to speak to the different viewers, the different groups, different networks. So I think that's inspiring. I also feel in the entertainment sector in particular that Schitt's Creek did an amazing job. I think I first started following Schitt's Creek not just because I was watching it and I was in the television space, but because they were doing things on Twitter that I hadn't seen any other brand do. And it made me want to come back, just because I knew there would be things on Twitter I couldn't find anywhere else. And that was important.
Absolutely. I think I've seen a bunch of people using Schitt's Creek GIFs as LinkedIn replies on threads.
Amazing. Yeah, I just think they know their voice very well. They have such a good library of content to play with, but then they also know how to kind of be irreverent in the space, drive other like news items into their conversations, such as when the Pope recently announced that he was in support of gay marriage, and then they were able to use an image of Moira Rose from the show. I thought that was a great kind of tie-in with everything. I think in terms of other verticals in that are doing really great work, I think the Washington Post kind of set a standard on TikTok that every other brand is really trying to compete with. They just really got in early and understood it early, and I think that was important because it's not editing videos for TikTok, it's editing videos on TikTok. I think the Joe Biden social team does a really great job of being proactive and reactive, and I think that's a really hard space to navigate, but I think they do a great job and kind of rebuild a trust that maybe as the American people obviously voted for Joe Biden, thank goodness, but I think there's a lot that the digital team kind of illustrates in a beautiful way. I think the ACLU does a really great job. And I think The Ringer does a really good job as well.
Absolutely. I also want to ask you if there are marketeers or social media people who you follow or admire the work of, maybe people that you've seen on LinkedIn or you've been seeing a bunch of posts from someone that have caught your attention. Now is the time to do these shout outs.
Absolutely. I think someone who's done a really good job and is this entire team, obviously, but I'm going to give a shout out to my girl, Elizabeth Montemurro, on the Wisconsin Democrats. They really kind of set a standard when it came to reunions in entertainment. They were doing fundraisers for the Wisconsin Democrats, including Parks and Rec, Princess Bride, Mean Girls. They really found a niche in that space, and I think they did a really great job.
Awesome. Is there anybody else that comes to your mind?
Oh, well, I got to give shout outs to my WWE team and Heidi at AMC. And I think even my people at Nickelodeon, Alex and Grace, I think they're all doing amazing work.
Awesome. Coming to appreciating and being thankful about, it's almost Thanksgiving, right? So this is a very personal question. What are you thankful for this year? It's been a tough year.
It's been a tough year. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful to still have a job. And I'm thankful to be living with my sister and have my family.
That is so awesome. I think small things, small joys that keep you going at what you do every day. You need to be thankful for that. And then I think it's just going to get better from here. I think we've all seen the worst, and I hope things turn out well for everyone, each one of us who's even watching. So on that note, I'd like to bring this conversation to an end. It has been an amazing experience, Amanda, talking to you, and I hope people who will watch this on YouTube or stream this on any of the podcasting platforms later on get to learn a thing or two and sort of implement that in their work. And also, I'm really thankful for you to have taken out time and joined us on the podcast and try to give back some of what you've picked up in these 10 years. So really, I'm glad that you could make time and join us on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
With that, we come to an end of the 24th episode of the Mad Over Videos podcast. For everybody else who's listening, we'll be back tomorrow at the same time with a new guest. We will be joined by Sandeep from Google, who will be talking about his experience and using videos for marketing and, more importantly, even sales. So for those who are still watching, please join us tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. IST and I guess 12 noon EST. So with that, thank you so much and see you guys very soon.